Hello, I'm Kristy Wallace, and this is Suddenly I See, a podcast which explores the power of a positive mindset, gratitude, and love in changing your life for the better. Join me as I share the mind hacks, rituals, and choices that have helped me survive and thrive in the face of adversity to arrive at a point where suddenly I see what truly matters in this life. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Happy New Year. It's 2026. And while I'm having a little break at the moment during January with 3 kids at home, it's kind of hard to record any podcast content with them here. But I did feel the urge to jump on and do a quick little vision board bonus episode. In January, I've had some really strong rituals around goal setting and vision boarding for many years. Basically started in my early 20s actually, where I have a few friends and we'd always ask each other, what are your goals for this year? And that got me really started on that process of thinking about not just running through the year and seeing what happens, but making the intention to stop and go, what do I actually want to achieve this year and how am I going to do that? From there, it's kind of evolved since Patty was diagnosed in January. That was a really tricky January for us, and it definitely knocked the wind out of me in relation to setting up what the year ahead was going to look like. But ever since then, I learned this thing called vision boarding, and I absolutely love it. And so now January for me is always the best month of the year because 1, I'm a teacher, so I'm on school holidays, and 2, I have the time and energy to stop and really think about what I want to set up for the year ahead. So I thought I'd share a little bit on how I go about that. This year I've changed my process a little bit too, so I'm willing to share that with you guys and see if it's of benefit as well. So for me, the first thing I did when I sat down, I have a book that's where I do all my kind of brainstorming and planning. And it's a book that I created years ago called Kristy's Marvelous Ideas and Grand Plans to Change the World. No pressure, but that's where I brainstorm any crazy ideas I have and I write them down. And it's also where I do my goal setting for each year as well. So this year I sat down and before I jumped straight into what I wanted this year to look like, I decided I'd stop and do some reflection because I'd seen a few Instagram posts, people I follow, that had some really good prompts about reflecting on the year before you jump into it. And so these are the questions that I asked myself and reflected on. The first thing was what things worked for me in 2025, and I brainstormed under that heading. The next one, which is crucial but the hardest, is what things did I keep avoiding? And this is where the magic happens because I think so many of us, we know what we're avoiding. When you call yourself out on it, it makes it a bit real, doesn't it? And so that's a great place to work out, well, then what can I do better in 2026? So that was a really valuable prompt. The other thing I did was what were some things that energized me? I'm really big on kind of listening and following the energy of my body and how I feel about things. If I'm really excited and into it, then I want to do more of those things. If I feel like something in life is sucking the soul out of me and draining me, then I obviously want to do less of that. So they were good prompts to think about as well. From there, I shifted pace a little bit and I started thinking about, well, then moving forward based on all this information, what's something that I can simplify in my life and what are some things that I need to eliminate in my life to make this year easier for me? And then the final thing I thought about was what kind of pace do I want in life? So for me, 2025 was all about doing less. I'd taken 12 months off from teaching while we took on the family farm, and I was actively really trying to kind of cut how many things I was doing in life and focus on just doing a few things, doing them well. But more importantly, finding the time to slow down and slow my brain. I'm the type of person that very easily falls into keeping very busy. I need to do something else, do something else. And so it really did take me half a year to learn how to switch off and relax. And throughout the second half of the year, I really loved actually doing not much at all. And I say not much, I still kept very busy. There was not days where I was just thinking, what will I ever do with myself? But in creating that space and not overloading and overwhelming with things to do, I found I became far more creative and I've had a lot of other new ideas, things like this podcast, for example, that I perhaps wouldn't have had the time to do if I hadn't stopped and done a little bit less in 2025. So for me, focusing on the pace of my life and trying to protect now this idea of I've done less and I loved it. How do I keep doing that to a degree while I this year return to work and not overwhelm myself as well? So the process of reflecting for me was really valuable. The next step that I go through then is to think about what are my words for the year ahead. And so for me, the question I ask myself is basically, how do I want to feel and who do I want to be? And so from there, I get some key words. So some of my words, for example, this year were that I want to be working in my purpose. I want to feel healthy and strong. I want to love myself and be kind to myself because I realized how much my inner critic's actually pretty horrible and I need to work on that this year. I also want to feel energized. I want to be connected to my mind, my body, and my spirit. I want to light up spaces. I want to be regulated. I want to have fun and be joyful. I want to be respected and valued for what I do. I want to keep sharing and connecting with people. I want to be mindful and I want to go on lots of adventures this year. So they were my key words of how I want to feel and who I want to be in 2026. So once I've got my key words, from there I go on to set goals around nearly each of those words. So breaking it out into, bigger statements of what my goals are relating to those words. And then I need to kind of drill down even more and work out the how. So one of my goals for this year in particular is around improving my sleep habits. So I don't know if others do this, but once you get the kids to bed and then you feel like this is your only window you've had to yourself, so that means you've got to sit and binge, Netflix or whatever to try and have a moment of replenishment and a moment to yourself. But then I do that for an hour or so, and then next minute I'm hungry again because I ate at 6 o'clock with the kids, and now it's 9 o'clock, 9:30. So then I start nibbling, and it's a vicious cycle and bad habit that I've slipped into. And so this year, a goal I really want to get clear on is making sure I'm in bed earlier, because one, I need more sleep, and two, that might curb me getting snacky because if I'm already in bed, I can't really eat. So something I've done specifically on so how am I going to implement that is that I've set an alarm on my phone that goes off at 9:15 every night. And it's amazing how much actually it catches you still in the middle of not really being ready for bed. And that's my get ready for bed alarm, which I feel like then I've got about 15, 20 minutes to try and finish up what I'm doing and mentally prepare that by 9:30 I'm in bed with a book trying to read, and by 10 o'clock I'm in bed. But just setting that little alarm has already brought me a lot of awareness into how much I was on autopilot with just sitting around and kind of wasting the evening. So that's one of my tips. If it's something that's an issue for you, feel free to steal that idea as well. But it's really important not just to set a goal, but actually nut out, well, how are you going to do that? Because otherwise it's just an intention that you're not going to get to. You really need to sit and think about explicitly how you're going to achieve that goal. Once I've done all the kind of what I call the admin side of this, then we get to the fun stuff, which is the vision board. And I love it because it's a creative process. I have all these magazines. I had a few subscriptions over the years to things like Breathe magazine and Wellbeing magazine. And they always have incredible quotes and great pictures. And so I use them to kind of give me the tools I need to set out this vision board. And there's so many ways you can do them. So I'll show you how I do it. And I have a special guest with me here today as well who's going to talk about their vision board too. But it's an open creative process. So you do what works for you is my biggest piece of advice there. So I thought the best way to kind of tell you what I do is to actually show you. And so I thought I'll take a little video of my vision board from last year and talk you through some of the kind of key images I had and why I had them on that board. So if we start basically in the top right corner, I have a picture of a lady with a ladder stepping up to a big microphone to speak. And for me last year, one of my big goals was to try and, one, start the podcast, but also access some keynote speaking things or learn more about how I could do that, more importantly. So that was a huge goal for me. And that's why it's such a large picture on the page as well. Then I have a few different quotes. One that was really important was this one that says, "My worth is not measured by ticking off tasks. It's measured by my continued passion to love what I'm doing." Because I realize so much of what I do is a tick off that I have to, get done, and things that society's told me I should be doing and have to be doing. But really I wanted to measure my worth last year by my passion. Am I doing actually what I love? Not just lots of things that keep me busy. There's another quote underneath there about purpose and the idea about having passion and working in your purpose, which was important for me too. I have some grounding stones there. That's something the kids and I often, when we go up the paddock, we make little stone towers like that. So a reminder to spend time with my children, but also to find balance in life. And then there's a girl sitting kind of meditating in nature. And that's my reminder again to spend more time outside and enjoy that. And just underneath, actually, there's more images of things like gardens. My goal is a veggie garden. It's been a 3-year goal, hampered mainly by my husband, but he's on board now. So watch out, 2026, the garden is coming. But there's a picture there of a cow and calf as well. And, the 2025 was all about spending time on the farm and helping my husband as we started to take on the business there. In the center of my vision board, I have this huge peacock. And for me, it's always been a challenge in that I don't like self-promotion. It's not my thing, but it's also, I felt time for me to acknowledge that my story that I have to share is worth sharing, and that you need to be proud and be the peacock for once in life rather than always trying to play it small. Let's just play it big and put yourself out there and share for the benefit of others. So that was my reminder to just be proud and not hold back in life. Down the bottom of the board, there's a little picture of a husband and wife, or in my vision, a husband and wife high-fiving. And that's to remember that Fred and I work better as a team. So to keep constantly coming back to this idea of us as a team working together. It's quite easy in the past for us to be feeling like we're working against each other, and that I have my career, he has his. And so last year it was about coming together and sharing that goal with the farm. Little garden down the bottom represents my flower garden, which I love, and spending time in there. The idea of change being important, having a haven at home. I was going to be spending a lot of time at home, so I wanted it to feel like a happy and safe space for me to be. Then there's a picture of this lady dressed in a very glamorous outfit and her denim jacket, just looking like a free spirit walking through flowers. And that was, how I was going to feel as I was on the farm. And I'm pretty sure I didn't look like that at all. But I'm chasing the feeling in that photo rather than replicating the image of it. And I very much feel like I did do that in spending time out in nature and helping out on the farm. At the very top corner, there's a picture of a lady who just looks so peaceful. So she's surrounded by nature, but she's calm. And that was really my goal last year, was to find my peace and to find some calm in the chaos that is life. And so that really helped ground me every time I looked at that. In the center, I have a comment that says, each rebellious act of self-love can lead to positive societal change. So remembering that by being kind to myself and loving myself, I can actually be in a better position to help change the world and create positive change as well. And then I have these two images underneath, which are reoccurring images. I use them on most vision boards because I keep finding similar ones each year. The first is a lady who has the peace dove flying through her heart and out the other side. And again, chasing peace was something I was really conscious of last year. And so I loved having that image to remind me of this is what you're trying to do. And the next one is a lady floating in the ocean. And I do this anytime I'm in a body of water now, I try and float. And it's about having that moment where you trust the universe, that it's got your back and that you'll survive and you'll stay afloat in life. And so it's a metaphor as much as a practical practice where I really enjoy just floating and feeling held by a body of water. So I have that there to remind me to keep doing that each year. And then I just have a couple of other quotes along the way that I found inspiring to keep me going. But yeah, I sometimes group things based on categories. Sometimes they're random and I mix everything all together. Some years my vision boards have had more quotes, less pictures. Other years, minimal words and more pictures. It just really depends what you're called to. But you want it to be things that every time you look at it, and think about where you place your vision board too. So I have mine in my walk-in wardrobe so I can look at it every morning and every night and just get the key images that I need to keep me on track for the day. That's the whole intention of it, is it keeps you focused on your goal. So I thought I might head over and introduce now our special guest on the podcast, the first guest on Something I See podcast. And it's the fabulous Audrey Wallace. Would you like to say hello, Audrey?
Hello.
And Audrey is also an avid vision boarder. We've been doing this, so does Patty actually, but Audrey gets into the process a lot more. Probably, what do you think, Audrey, the last 3 years we've been vision boarding?
3 or 4, yeah, probably.
Yeah. So Audrey, why do you like vision boarding? What is it about it that you enjoy doing each year?
I enjoy vision boarding because I get to spend time with my mum, and it also means that I get to find pretty pictures to go with my life.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Well, do you want to talk us through, you've done a vision board already for this year. Do you want to maybe tell us what some of the pictures are on your vision board, why you chose them, and go from there?
Right in the center, I have a really pretty pink flower with a rainbow of love hearts around the side, and that's really to symbolize my love of nature. And down underneath that, I have a picture of a lady and a man with the moon on a night and lots of pretty trees just with the petals just falling off. They look like petals to me. And next to that, I have a garden bed filled of rainbow flowers because, again, I really, really love nature. And most of my pictures this year are full of flowers and leaves and really just nature. I have one with the sun, which symbolizes like the brightness in life. And I have a lot of colourful pictures this year, such as blues, greens, pinks, purples. Really kind of like they're colours that really pop. And yeah, I just really like those colours.
Mm-hmm. Can you relate? You've got lots of flower pictures and nature as well, but what's your the other link for you very much to flowers and nature at the moment in your life?
Right now, I'm running a business called Flowers on the Street, and it's where I get flowers from our garden and other people's gardens, and I can press them or dry them, and I make them into key rings, photo frames, and bar salts, and for Christmas, just as a little special, baubles.
Mm-hmm.
And I fill them up with rose petals or some I have natural colours and really plants that are like from Australia, but most of them are roses because we have a lot of roses in our garden.
Mm-hmm. So for you, that spending time in nature is a big part of who you are, but also a really creative element for you because I think you enjoy being around beautiful things and working with beautiful flowers as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Something else Audrey and I have done, which I didn't mention before, is those key words that we came up with for the year and what we wanted to feel and who we wanted to be. We also add those to our vision board too and write them around our images, just so that those key things, those key words stay front of mind throughout the year as well. So as you can see, Audrey is a perfect example. And like we said, we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years. So she was only quite young when we started. But there really is no limit on vision boarding, no limit on your age, no limit on how you do it. But it is such a beautiful process. And I remember hearing a quote earlier last year when I was studying some wellbeing course, and they were talking about the idea of being mindful and how often it's kind of like we're just on autopilot. If you're flying an aeroplane, we're on complete autopilot. You press the button and you cruise through the year. But being mindful means actually deciding to take the steering wheel. And I know there's an element of life that is unpredictable and we can't see coming. And I totally acknowledge and respect that. Like we know more than anyone how much life can throw things at you that you didn't have planned. But in the meantime, you also have a beautiful life and you have the opportunity to make it whatever you want to be. And I think spending this time in January to really stop and think about the next 12 months ahead is such a valuable way to move forward. For me this year, it's really about little micro things, not even huge, big, lofty goals really, but what are some little tweaks that I can make to my life to improve my health and my well-being. And so, if you're not sure where to start there. It doesn't have to be huge, but even thinking of just those tiny little changes that you could do to improve your life is a great place to start. So thanks so much for joining in. Stay tuned. February, I'll be back with our regular Suddenly I See podcast. But on behalf of Audrey and myself, thank you so much for listening and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
I hope this episode has given you something to reflect on or some tools that you can implement in your own life. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with your family or friends. It would mean so much to me. Remember to stay positive, be grateful, and take each step of the journey with kindness and love in your heart. Until next time, bye.